Reducing freight costs is one of the hardest things to do. It's a really easy number to measure. You can see that number go up or down each month based on all the loads that you have going in or out of your facility. It's really easy to look at whatever that cheapest freight is and get that in and out of the door. There's two ways that you can look at how to reduce these costs overall. The first one is looking at how to negotiate rates. Now, what everyone does is they get on the phone or they hear these different rates coming in and they go for the cheapest one. What you're currently using, that one freight, you love what they provide, you love their service, but you hear every month that there's someone else that's $100 or $200 cheaper. So why not go to the company that you're dealing with and go to them and say, what is stopping you from lowering your costs down to a few $100s less? You might not get to that level, but it might be interesting to hear what they come back with. First of all, they're going to be kind of interested that there's other, carriers, freight that's coming in, trying to undercut them on that side. But they're also going to come in and be like, yeah, every time we come to your facility, we have to wait for that correct paperwork to get processed, and it takes our driver a little bit longer. That can be one of the biggest things that you're looking at of how do we cut that time, or how do we make our operations run a little smoother so that they're not waiting around or there's that cost that they have to eat up. They're looking at their bottom line. They're looking at how long it takes for them to get loads in and out and the effort that they have to put in. So once you start talking to that broker about how do we lower those costs or where is that time being wasted, start listening to what those problems are and how you can implement them. So some of the things that you're probably going to hear are how long it's taking that turnaround time. I think that's the biggest thing. They get on the property, how long it takes for them to get in and out. Now, that could be where do we go from here to start lowering that time? And you can look at having your loads staged. That will be the biggest win. Now, not every facility can do that, but if you can get those main loads in and out off to the side and ready to go, or you continue to get those loads staged throughout the day, that can be a huge boost. The other is getting trucks in and out of the facility. Not every facility is easy to back into a dock door. We know that it's tough, it's difficult. It makes drivers angry. You also have drivers that don't want to come back because of that. So how do you make that as easy as possible? Making sure your yard's clean, making sure that you have the right loads going to the right area so that you can have as much space as possible for those drivers to get into those dock doors. And then, if it's terrible to get in and out, just having those loads prepped and ready to go so they can get in and out real quick. That helps them. That helps the morale of that driver. But then that carrier and broker, whoever you're dealing with, they don't hear their drivers complaining all the time, which is a huge win also. So when you're looking at those numbers and especially turnaround times, you're looking at how long turnaround times are currently. It's good to have all that data before you start going into negotiations. So look at how long it's taking on average for those customers or those carriers in the facility, and then start driving down that time. So when you start talking to them about how much you can cut costs, you can say, well, we just decreased the amount of time that they spend at the dock doors by 20% in the last month. Here are the stats, here are the numbers. And if you have those and you can send them right to them, you can say, why can't we cut 10, 15% of our freight costs because of that? Looking at that and making sure that you can actually have concrete KPIs with going to them with that sort of thing is going to cut down those costs and then also make your negotiations a lot easier. Freight isn't all about cost. I've done it so many times in my life of going for the cheapest freight to get that load in and out of our facility. It's the repercussions of cheap freight that really hurt your operations and you don't actually see what's happening because it's really hard to get all those KPIs. Now, it's easy to look at it and be like, they didn't show up or they were late to pick up or drop off. Those are easy numbers to get a hold of, get some KPIs on. It's the other things that are really, really hard to understand because it's the soft cost to the operation. Things like trucks showing up or trailers showing up that's the wrong type of trailer to load, and it just takes a little bit longer. Your team's not used to that type of trailer. I've had it where there was boat trailers showing up for a regular load, and we managed to load it, but it took us an extra 20, 30 minutes to get that in and out, or that it's really, really sketchy to actually load these types of trailers. Other things like having cheap loads that go to other countries where you have that trailer sit in a yard for a day or two until the next tractor comes up to pick it up to go to that area. That right there is a huge concern because not only do you have a load sitting there that's worth how much, and if it's stolen, then you gotta deal with all that fun stuff of insurance and dealing with all that. or at the end of the day, missing the other delivery times or pickup times. You also have your supporting staff like your accounting team that has to deal with invoices. And when things aren't as streamlined, or there's a lot of confusing things that are coming in on invoices, or that there's more detention to merge that shouldn't be there, or just making it more complicated, again, it's one of those things that no one thinks about in your operations, but that's a sunk cost, and that's stopping your team from doing something that's actually important. You can also start affecting how your relationships with customers work. If your loads are always showing up late, or they're getting picked up and it's taking too much time, your sales reps and your procurement team, all of them have to deal with all those repercussions also. They got to smooth things over. They got to get a phone call, make sure that, we're not going to use that driver anymore because they were terrible to deal with at your facility. These small things just add way more complexity than they need to be. So when you're running your facility, you're always looking at that bottom line, trying to drive that number down, and you're trying to save 1 or 2%, and that could be over just your freight alone. If you want a quick, easy win and start calculating how much is it actually costing the company, use a 3X rule. So every person that's involved in the operations, whoever that is that has to be involved with that one load, look at 3X their salary per hour, and that's how much you're losing per hour when they are working on these loads that they shouldn't be. So that extra $100 or $200 saved on a load, is it really worth it? Only you can tell, and only you'll know that bottom line and if it's going up or down at the end of the day. Instead of changing to the cheaper alternative, stay with your current provider that's reliable, and watch my next video on how to drive down their costs, so that's going to save you money.